Hello everybody, it's your old pal Dev, hailing from parts unknown as usual. Today we're going to take a break from Magic the Gathering spoiler season so we can predict the WWE Backlash card. I told you I was going to do this. Your boy never lies to you. We're going to take a little bit of a break, reset our brains. Sometimes that's a good thing to do. Focus on something else for a second, have a little bit of fun. It's my channel, I do whatever I want. So here's the thing, I have no idea what order this card is going to actually occur in once we get to the show, but I'm going to go ahead and try and also predict sort of the order the card's going to go in, starting with the first match of the night, possibly even on the pre-show, Apollo Crews versus Andrade for the United States Championship. Well, I'm pretty sure they're going to keep the gold on Apollo here. If you just want a dry prediction of what's going to happen at the end of this match, I think they just put this belt on Apollo and they've spent all this time building him up. He's been in the company for a long time now. This is his first strap, so I don't think they're just going to take it away from him in like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm fairly certain they're going to keep this thing on Apollo, but I imagine there's going to be some sort of shenanigan that leads to that. I'd like if they would just make Apollo look strong and he beats Andrade clean, but I'm fairly certain Zelina's going to get involved, or we might actually see some sort of contention between Angel Garza and Andrade, because there's been a little bit of dissension in the ranks lately, if I'm being honest. So I think that maybe they've signaled that there's some sort of issue between Andrade and Angel Garza, and maybe that will come up at some point. But either way, I just don't think they're going to take the belt off of Apollo here. But this is one of the ones that I'm actually the least sure about, to be honest. But the next match of the night, maybe, who knows, is the women's tag team match with Sasha Banks and Bayley, the current champions, versus Bliss Cross Applesauce, which is maybe my favorite name for a tag team ever, and the greatest character workers currently on the roster, the Iconics, who I really, really hope win this match, but it's hard to say they definitely will. This is another one of the harder matches to call, for a few reasons. A lot of people say that Sasha and Bayley are going to retain here, and I do think there's a fairly high chance of that, but they also hot potato these belts quite a lot. I don't think that Sasha and Bayley need these belts to continue the storyline that they are definitely on, where Sasha's very likely going to turn face and attack Bayley at some point, and I'm betting that they'll have their match at SummerSlam, which is a couple of months in the future here. But like I said, I don't think they need the belts to build towards that. As a matter of fact, I think losing the belts at Backlash could be a good way to build towards that, to be honest. You know, maybe Bayley cost them the match somehow, or maybe even Sasha cost them the match somehow, and that increases the turmoil in their tag team. So I could see that happening, and honestly, I want the beneficiaries of that to be the Iconics, the first ever women's tag team champions, and I hope they pick their belts back up, because they really desperately need to be rewarded for being some of the best, again, characters on the roster. A lot of people have condemned Billie Kay's work in the ring, but I actually have like no issue with Billie Kay's work in the ring. I've seen some talk that she sells like a Disney character, but that's like exactly one of the reasons that I like her. I don't think she's actually like a super lazy competitor. We could talk about you know, how good of a worker Billie Kay is all day, and I would continue to defend her just because I love the Iconics so much. And if someone's gonna win this match and take the belts away from Sasha Banks and Bayley, I think it should be the Iconics. Bliss Cross Applesauce had the belts forever, and I think this would be a good way to, you know, rekindle a rivalry between the Iconics and Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and actually do something with the women's tag team division, which again desperately needs to be done. I just don't really think that Sasha and Bayley having the belts helps out the women's tag team division that much. But the next match of the night very well may be the curtain jerker, and that's Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. Although there are so many title matches tonight that I'm inclined to believe that they'll put, say, the North American Championship up first, the U.S. title. And then Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus will be sort of a mid-card break in a way, right? Because this is the lowest stakes match of the entire night. There's really not too much on the line here when you think about it. This is just a boilerplate rivalry that has had some pretty crazy moments over the last couple of weeks. I've enjoyed the build all in all to this, but I'm just not really that excited for this match. But I'll pick Jeff Hardy, which is really going against the grain. Nearly everyone online has picked Sheamus to win this match. They'll continue the rivalry into SummerSlam, but honestly, I don't think you can do that with every single match. There's so much talk about, oh, they'll continue this rivalry to SummerSlam in every match, and I just don't think you can do that. Although, if there's one rivalry that will continue to play out, it's probably Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. I just don't think this will be the end of it, but at the same time, both of these guys just came back, and I don't think you need to make Sheamus look strong. Sheamus is strong. We know that Sheamus is strong. And I don't think that losing to Jeff Hardy will necessarily affect Sheamus's perceived power level. Put it that way. I think Jeff Hardy does kind of need this win here to look strong. And so we have like a big, good babyface moment tonight, which we will have a few of. And honestly, part of me thinks you can't have all the good big babyface moments in the world, which is another reason Sheamus might win. But mostly out of feeling more than fact here, I'm picking Jeff Hardy to pick this one up. But up next, maybe my other most anticipated match of the night, another women's match. This is Asuka, the Raw Women's Champion, versus Nia Jax. I really don't see any way Nia wins this, unless they really want to shock and upset everyone, which is something WWE really likes to do. There's been a lot of talk on social media about Nia and how she needs to go back down to developmental or be fired. She keeps injuring people. She's injured Kairi Sane twice. So there's been an awful lot of well-reasoned, to my mind, talk about how Nia just, this isn't the place for her yet. And especially being champion is not the way to sort of reward her for all of this consternation lately. But that's exactly the kind of thing WWE might like to do, because if you put the strap on Nia right now, she might be the most hated women's champion in history, more so than like Charlotte, because, people love to hate Charlotte. People just don't like Nia Jax. That's completely different. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if they put the belt on Nia, much more so than a lot of other creators and people who are writing up predictions online for this show. Most people have Asuka picked to win this for obvious reasons, and Asuka is currently my favorite superstar in the entire company. I love Asuka. And I love that she has the belt, and I really hope they keep it on her. But just long story short, I would not be surprised if WWE pulls the troll move of making Nia Jax champion, and then maybe having Asuka win the belt back from her at a later pay-per-view, maybe when there's actually people in the stands. I have that thought for a couple of different title changes on this show. Because honestly, I don't really think that right now, if you switch the championship onto a heel, that there's really that much penalty for doing that in a world where there aren't like live audiences. If you put the belts on heels right now, and then you take those belts off of the heels and put them on a babyface, once we get back to live crowds, you just get these huge pops, a lot of good audience reaction. And in some ways, I don't think that WWE wants to waste what would be good audience reactions on babyface wins during these pay-per-views. That's just speculation. Because again, once we get back to actual 10, 20,000 people being in the audience, then putting the belts on babyfaces will be much more, exciting, especially for the crowds. So again, I can see an argument for putting belts on heels right now and then putting them back on faces once we actually get to crowds. But at the same time, I really have a hard time believing they'll reward Nia for all her recent behavior. And if they do, then that's just one more thing that's wrong with WWE. So it's entirely possible, but my gut says Asuka here. I think she's got probably a 70% chance of winning this match, but don't let that 30%, fool you. I think that Nia actually does have more of a chance than a lot of people are giving her. But up next, probably the match that I care about the least on the night, which is amazing considering it's the Universal Championship match. We got Braun Strowman versus The Miz and John Morrison. Strowman's winning this. Again, unless WWE just wants to pull like the ultimate troll heel move and make, the Universal Championship sort of a dual championship that The Miz and John Morrison hold. Or maybe, Jomo gets the pin and he gets the belt and The Miz wants it and he doesn't understand why they can't be co-champions, and they get into some sort of fight. Which has been the speculation here, is that they're going to break up The Miz and Jomo, but I don't know about that. The actual speculation is that John Morrison goes heel here, and I think it's impossible to go heel on The Miz at this point, just because The Miz is a little smarmy. He's another one that people love to hate, and in some cases people just hate him. They don't love hating him, they just hate him. But The Miz does have like a new game show coming out, so like maybe they want to turn him face for that. But I think you're gonna have a real hard time turning Miz face, especially without crowds where you can't really judge the reaction. Right? Like you can write The Miz as a babyface, but that doesn't mean that people at home are going to view him that way. And once we get to crowds, I feel like people might still boo The Miz. So it's going to be really hard to turn The Miz face if that's what like you're trying to do. But all in all, I really don't think it's much worth, debating over, because I'm fairly certain they're going to keep the belt on Strowman here. But up next, the match for the WWE Championship. Yes, it's different than the Universal Championship. Yeah, if you mostly watch this channel for Magic content, you might not know, but there are two different WWE Championship belts. But anyway, Drew McIntyre, the current champion, Drew McIntyre, is going up against Bobby Lashley. And honestly, I am anticipating this match more than I thought I would. I am more excited for this match than I ever thought I would be, which isn't to say that I'm like totally excited for it. But, you know, when they first started building this match, I was like, Drew versus Lashley, who really cares that much? But the way they've built this match, I'm actually looking forward to it a good bit. They've done a good job of making Bobby look like a credible, you know, monster heel, even with a crap finisher, right? The full Nelson that he's recently adopted is not a good finisher for 2020. No, sir. I remember an interview with Hulk Hogan a while back, who was not a good human being. But he was talking about how he regrets using the atomic leg drop for his finisher like his entire career because it screwed up his back like really, really bad. You know, destroyed his tailbone. And he wishes that he used a sleeper as his finishing move. And that just sounded like the dumbest thing ever. Like, yeah, you don't have to screw up your back or anything. Don't use the leg drop. But a sleeper hold as the finisher for the most popular superstar in the company for a decade? That would be awful. And I feel pretty much the same way about the full Nelson. Like, why are we using this move as a credible finisher in 2020? But here we go. But even with that sort of misstep in my mind, Lashley has been built up to look really good. I really like his sort of partnership with MVP. They put him with someone who can talk. MVP can talk. Bobby's not as good at it as MVP is. And I also really like what they've been doing with Lana during this feud. Just a lot of really good character work from a lot of different people. Drew included, by the way. I think Drew is a really good champion. I would not have thought that 6 months ago, but Drew has really come a long way. Amazingly, he's better as a baby than a heel, right? I've really enjoyed Drew McIntyre's run as champion, and I like sort of his character work as well. And I don't think they're going to take the belt off of him. If I had to, and I mean, I guess I do have to because it's a predictions video. If I had to pick somebody, it would be Drew McIntyre to win this match. And I hope they keep it on him. But I had sort of the same thoughts about this match as I do about the Raw Women's Championship match. They could take the belt off of Drew here and put it on Bobby, continue this rivalry, and then at SummerSlam or when we have crowds, whatever, you take that belt back off Bobby and put it on Drew in front of a crowd, and that would be amazing. I don't think that this needs to be like the end of Drew McIntyre's championship run, period. You know, I don't want him to be just a footnote in history as like the guy that held the championship belt during the no crowds era. I think that he deserves way more than that, which is surprising to me. I wouldn't have said that 6 months ago. I didn't really care for Drew McIntyre or care about Drew McIntyre, but now, again, he's really been built up, in my eyes, to be not only, you know, an enjoyable promo, which is again just insane. I would have never thought that just a few short months back, beginning of the year, I would have never thought that. But he's been a really good promo. He's been built to be a very strong, charismatic champion. You know, I love everything about babyface Drew McIntyre, and I really want him to retain this belt. But I could understand if he didn't. I think that Drew is easily heavily favored to win this, but just the number of people online picking Bobby Lashley, again, I think really goes to show you the credibility of how they've built up this feud in the last like month or so here. So I'll pick Drew McIntyre to win this, but I will say I would not be entirely surprised if they put this belt on Bobby for the time being. But up next, very likely the last match of the night is Edge versus Randy Orton. And this is the other match that I'm just not really excited for, like at all. You know, it's Sheamus and Jeff Hardy, and then this match. I don't. The stakes are higher, I guess. Just the way they've built this, the stakes are higher than the Sheamus and Jeff Hardy match. But I still just don't really feel the stakes the way they want me to in this. You know, it's sort of gone the inverse of how it normally goes. Usually you do a wrestling match, and then you do the, you know, go all around the building and beat each other up with foreign objects match. They've done that in the reverse order, and I'm just, again, I sort of appreciate what they're trying to do with this match, but I find myself having a hard time getting truly excited for it. Now, Edge's contract calls for 3 matches a year, but in this first year he's got 4 matches. The Royal Rumble was one of them. And then he had the knockdown, drag-out thing with Randy last time. And now there's this match, and apparently he's got one more this year at some point. So I would imagine that, you know, he's going to fight Randy Orton at SummerSlam. Again, you know, you're going to continue this rivalry until SummerSlam. You can't do that with every rivalry, but I'm fairly certain they're going to do that with this one. So if I had to guess, I think Randy Orton wins this match. They'll do some sort of 50-50 booking, and then Edge will come out on top. With the 2 out of 3 wins at SummerSlam. It'll be a big moment. Maybe there'll be crowds or whatever. That's one thing about Edge's return, is that at Royal Rumble, you know, this is another reason I'm a little surprised I'm not more excited for this match. Let me throw that out there too. At Royal Rumble, you know, my wife and I were watching. It was a decent, you know, match up to the point where Edge's music hits, you know, he goes like, "You think you know me?" And I just pop like crazy. I stand up off the couch like, "Oh my God, Edge is back." And my wife has been watching wrestling with me for like 2 years now. She's never heard of Edge. She's like, "What? Who? What is this?" I'm like, "You don't even know, dog. Like, Edge is back, cuz." Like, I popped like so freaking hard for Edge's return. And so did everyone else in the crowd, and pretty much everyone else watching the Royal Rumble around the world. And, you know, since the pandemic and all that, there just hasn't been any crowd reaction for Edge, and that feels really sad for my dude. So once we get back to crowds, whenever that is, they'll probably save a huge moment for Edge so we can get that pop again. And that's why I think Randy's probably going to win this one. And for a couple of other reasons, right? Again, Edge won the first one, so they'll probably do a 50-50 thing on this. And I'll also say that there's probably going to be some sort of ring rust that'll factor in for Edge during this match. I imagine that'll be part of the storyline, is that, oh, Edge hasn't wrestled in 9 years, so there is some rust he's got to knock off. And maybe he knocks it all off by the end of the match, you know, and he has his Rocky moment, although, you know, Rocky lost. And in Rocky 1, Rocky lost. We'll call it a Rocky moment, and he comes back. You know, he rallies and beats Randy Orton. But I really don't actually see that happening. I think Randy is going to win this one in probably a relatively long affair. But who knows? They could just, as I think Brian Zane was the first to say, they might just pull the troll move on this and have Randy come out, you know, kick Edge in the balls, RKO, win. I'm the best wrestler of all time. That could happen, but I imagine with all the build to this and all the intense promo work that they're probably going to have this match go, you know, 20 minutes. And it's likely not going to be the most electrifying match on the card or anything, but if I had to choose, which I do technically, I would pick Randy to win this one. But that's all for Backlash predictions. I hope y'all had some fun with this. I know normally I do Magic the Gathering content, and this is very, very different. But the demographics in my head, there's no, I don't think, actual real-world data that I have in front of me to suggest this, but the the data in my head suggests that there's a lot of crossover between the MTG and WWE audiences. But, you know, in case you're, you know, you found this video and you found this channel for the first time because you wanted to watch the predictions video, normally I do Magic the Gathering content. I'm thinking about doing a predictions video for like every pay-per-view, you know, once a month I'll do a predictions video. But if you're into Magic the Gathering content, we do that all the freaking time, like 3 or 4 days a week. So, you know, if you like MTG, I'm pretty good at talking about that too, son. So, you know, get in there. But anyway, I guess I'm done for this one. Thanks for indulging me, everyone that normally comes to my channel. I hope that you enjoyed this, and yeah, catch you cats later. I'm Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Spread love, and be kind.